Hello, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Open Book Broadcast, where we talk about anything and everything, writing and publishing, and all the things in between. And we are an open book about it. I'm your host, Allie, with The Right Place, Right Time. I'm an award-winning author and an international book coach, developmental editor, and ghostwriter. And I am so excited for this morning's conversation with three fabulous guests and women that I know who absolutely adore and love writing. Now, typically, if you've been following along with Open Book Broadcast in this last year, we've brought on a lot of guest experts that have come from the industry themselves. Today, we're shaking it up a little bit. We're bringing in somebody who does have a foot inside the industry as a ghostwriter and book coach, but we're also bringing along two guests who aren't doing writing for their full-time job, but man, are they hustling on the side to get their names known, their work out there, and to build the following. So I'm super pumped to have this cross-pollination of writers that are coming from all corners of the United States to talk to us today about pursuing a passion for writing and bravely putting pen to paper. So before we get into fabulous conversation with one another, where anything can happen and anything might be said, I want to formally introduce the wonderful souls that are with me this morning. And in no order of preference or favorites, because I love them all, I'm just going to start by introducing Lashun Williams. Lashun Williams is an African-American multi-genre author of romance, fantasy, and dark fiction. In 2013, she self-published her first series, Element Princess, under her pen name, Danielle-Williams. She spent the last decade studying writing and honing her craft. Returning to the writing scene in 2023, she published her Lovecraftian short story Sea Comedies with DG Sentinel. She's currently working on her sea-themed dark fantasy romance, currently titled Starlight. Okay, you had me at dark sea-themed. Like, I don't even know, but I'm here for it. Also, Halloween this year, there's like a pirate underwater kind of theme going on. If anybody's paying attention, we are, because my kid's obsessed. All right, now introducing Julissa Pabon. Do I have that right? Oh, I didn't even ask you about your last name. Look, I just stumped myself on air. Okay. Julissa is a Brooklyn-born writer with a passion for using her words to connect with and serve her community. Currently pursuing a career as a licensed professional counselor, Julissa believes that writing is a powerful tool for self-discovery, awareness, and personal growth. Now, I recall that Julissa and I connected originally because my past life was in mental health. And when Julissa and I met, it was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Two birds of the same feather, with writing also in our heart. So I can't wait to tap into some of that today with Julissa. And last but certainly not least, Danielle-Perlin Good is the soul-aligned ghostwriter and award-winning best-selling author based in Chicago. She empowers thought leaders to amplify their lasting legacies by unleashing their nonfiction content, creating a profound impact, and transforming lives. With a wealth of experience, she has contributed to over 20 books, ranging from memoirs and thought leadership to business and personal growth. Additionally, she provides book and story coaching, editing, and consulting services to C-suite executives, ensuring their message is concise, beautiful, and genuinely authentic. Welcome, ladies, to Open Book Broadcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So, folks, we had some tech difficulties this morning. We were in wrong meeting rooms. We had videos not working. We didn't know what we were doing, but we do have things to say. So now that we're here together, what I would like to know, beyond the professional and formal bios that we've just heard, how do you describe yourself as a writer? Like, what is the writer essence of you all about? And since Julissa is my top right corner, I'm going to start with Julissa, and then we'll move down to Lashun and then to Danielle.
I would say the first thing that came to mind is freedom as a writer, because when I dove into like writing and learned that like this is my passion, this is my talent, it was a gift. This is a gift and I need to use it. I felt more free. So I would describe myself as, free, because when I'm writing, that's exactly how I feel.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So Julissa is the essence of freedom. All right.
Thank you.
Freedom. I just feel like we should break out into song, but we won't. Nobody wants that this morning. All right, LaShawn, what about you? What's your spirit self as a writer?
I'd say a wordsmith soul.
Oh, I love
Because for me, my writing career started when I wrote fan fiction when I was like 13, 14. And then while I was writing for a series that completely was not mine, that completely would have been copyrighted if I published it, it's like, I want to do my own stuff. And then from there, it was just one thing after another after another. And I feel as a storyteller, it's my responsibility to be as honest with my story as possible, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. I'm immortalizing myself. And 200 years from now, I'll be someone's favorite author, or even 5 years from now. But ultimately, it's my responsibility to make sure that I am the author for me.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Immortalizing. That's a big one. I like that though. Yeah. And wordsmith is good. And freedom. Look, we've got all sorts of great words. Okay, Danielle, what's your essence? Like, what powerhouse words are you going to toss into the fire?
So one of the first ideas that came to me when you were chatting about this particular question is the way that I got the name that I go by. So I go by the soul aligned ghostwriter. And I really do put a lot of emphasis on spiritual storytelling in everything that I do, in all of my engagements. I do have my own writing projects. I have been in anthologies and have a background in journalism and had bylines in various places before I entered into my business. And I'm actually working on my own nonfiction book, which we can talk about another time. But I truly love the idea of spiritual storytelling in unleashing those vulnerable moments and getting underneath and digging underneath the surface of what you were really trying to say. So that's what I really notice in a first draft. You're on the surface level, and then you have to dig in for the second and the third.
I love that. I kind of feel like in some ways, like writing is an act of spirituality. Like if we were to define spirituality as getting in touch with a higher sense of self, right? Or higher sense of power. I feel like writing, like when you're getting into the zone, right? Where like time is not even a thing that it's like the moment where you look up and you realize you've been writing for 2 hours, right? And you don't even realize that it's been 2 hours, that your butt is numb, that you've had to pee, and that you're really hungry for a snack. Right? Like when you're in that kind of zone, like feel like that is a very spiritual place to be in, and to create is to receive, right? Like, I mean, does that feel like that jives, at least with those of us here today? Like
I
that.
have many moments where I'm like, how many words am I in? And you realize it's been 1 or 2 hours and you're like 4,000 words in, your carpal tunnel's acting up. Like you realize your cat's been whining for food, so it's like, oh wow, where was I?
Yeah, exactly. I definitely neglected my cat on more than one occasion because I've been too like focused on whatever it is that I'm doing. So my soul is being well nurtured. Hers is just wasting away in the background, being unfed. What about a book character? Is there a book character that you feel is like you on the page? Like if there was to be a character who best exemplified you as a person, like who is it? I'm Anne of Green Gables. Like a little bit fiery sometimes, definitely would break a slate over somebody's head, probably being overly dramatic. Like that was me as a kid for sure. Lost in my imagination. Don't call me Alyssa. I want to go by Allie. Like just making shit up all the time. So she's like my spirit character.
For me, I'd say I was it's more of a movie character. I'd go with Evelyn Carnahan from The Mummy. Like,
Okay.
I just, like, first of all, that movie came out when I was 4. I had no business watching it, but apparently, according to my mother, it's the only thing that kept me sitting on the floor for 2 hours. So I love her passion for books. I would not resurrect a 3,000-year-old mummy for fun, but
Are you sure? I mean, you're writing dark fantasy and like.
The time.
I mean, I think you need to check in with yourself. Maybe a little more self-awareness there, Lashun.
Let me try that again. I might. I don't want to, considering the state of the world. I don't want to explode it further, but I'd say Evelyn because I love her passion for books and history, and she's brave and like beautiful and cunning, and just a really big inspiration for me, where she reminds me of no one and yet everyone at the same time.
I love that. And such a unique character. You know, I haven't thought about that movie in ages. Okay, Julissa, Danielle, who's your spirit character?
Mine would be, she's actually a real life author. It would probably be Elaine Weatherroth. I hope I'm saying her last name right, but she wrote a book, More Than Enough, claiming spaces for who you are, no matter what they say. And she goes through different life experiences that she had to enter that space on her own, as in, and claim it. Like, I belong here. This is who I am. And a lot of my life experiences are like that. Like, I was here for a reason. So I'm going to claim it, own it, and step into my power. When I first read her book, I instantly was like, the next time I go to New York City, I'm going to meet this lady. We're going to be best friends because that's pretty much my twin. It never happened. I still have hope, but I always go back to the book when I need to remind myself that in order to be in certain spaces, you need to claim who you are, no matter what people say. And she's beautiful. She's a fashionista, and she's funny. It's like, who wouldn't want to hang out with her? I like to do, yes. I like to think of her as like Sex and the City missed her. She should have been the star in Sex and the City. Yeah.
I love it. And I agree with Lashun. You need to start changing the sentence. I haven't met her yet.
Okay, yet. You know what? After this, I'm just going to DM her and ask her for drinks.
There you go.
Do it.
Why not?
Do it.
No, every person I ever wanted to meet, I ended up meeting. I did.
Wow. See, Lashun's got superpowers. Like,
I may need you to manifest me meeting Rihanna. I don't know. If we're going big, let's go big.
Oh,
I have this coffee mug here for a reason.
Yeah. See, I'm telling you, OBB, we got some magic happening behind the scenes because these conversations this year have been off the hook, like off the chart, off the cliff. I do a lot of mixing my metaphors and just making up new phrases. My husband's like, how could you possibly be a writer? You're constantly getting things wrong. And I'm like, I think I tap out at the end of the day and then stuff just stops making sense. Yeah. But what I was trying to say is that these conversations have been wonderful this year because these kind of like, this like synchronicity or like, you know, strange connections and coincidences that I haven't planned have just like happened like naturally, where I'm bringing 3 guests together, maybe because I think that there's some sort of commonality with the theme, such as today, right? You're all pursuing your passion for writing in some way, but then all these other little things pop up during the conversation that I couldn't possibly plan, like talking about manifestation and Danielle's drinking out of a manifesting. Right? Like, this is the magic that I'm talking about. I'm like, who doesn't believe in higher divine power? You should. Watch OBB, and it will prove itself to you. Okay. So Danielle, who's your spirit character?
So I was thinking about this as well. And I think that there are a lot of different ones to choose from in terms of different facets of my life. But I did recently finish The Women, and I love Frankie McGrath, the main character. I think Kristen Hanna did such a wonderful job with all the characters and the character development. I love historical fiction also. In general, it's one of my absolute favorite genres to read and listen to. And Frankie chooses to go be a nurse in Vietnam. And It's one of the bravest things I think you can possibly do is to say, I'm going to do this because I want to serve my country or I want to be with my family. And the way that she interacts, the way that she wants to belong to a place. I know Julissa was talking about the idea of belonging. And I think that's one of the main themes of the book also. And I truly resonate with that because I had so many corporate jobs in my 20s and none of them stuck. I was hopping from one thing to another. And for various reasons, I couldn't find my footing in the corporate world. It didn't work for me. So I loved freelancing. I loved being on my own schedule. And the more I have learned about myself, the more I've learned you have to do things that are your way that will also work well with everybody else in your life, logistically, right? And I really just resonate with a lot of what Frankie was thinking and thought through in terms of the main theme of belonging and wanting to have a place. And it's just a fascinating book. If you have not read it, if anybody's listening, I highly recommend it. It's so, so good, so important, especially for women. So
I feel like I've heard of that book, and now it's like, is it on my Goodreads list? Probably, with the other 555 books, that I want to read. But now I'm curious. Like,
so good.
Oh yeah, how about that? Want to read? Yep, it's there. It's on the list. All right.
And it's about female friendships, which is really, really good and important because a lot of times with some of these books, it's only about romance, only about the romantic elements, but this really centers in on the female friendships.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
Yep. Because when in the future all the men die because of some things,
because it's cold.
Women will be left and they will have to rule the world and it will be glorious, but they will need this comfort. I am not anti-man, by the way. I should just put that out there. I'm not, but I do feel like, well, never mind. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. Let's talk about writing. Everybody scratch that from the record before I put away all men audience members and men in my life that I love and hold dear. Okay, so today we're talking about pursuing a passion for writing, and what everybody has heard right from your bios is that you've all got writing kind of in your life in a different capacity, right? Danielle has finally found her way onto the path of making it not just something she pursues personally, but she pursues professionally. Mm-hmm. Julissa, you're getting a degree in something else entirely, but you're seeing how the power of the written word still matters, and you're also writing on the side yourself, right? I know that because I get your newsletters. And Lashun, you're on your next big thing, right? As a self-published author, though that's not your day job, right? So, I want to talk a little bit about like, when did writing enter your lives? What's the origin story of your love affair with writing? Like, how did it first blossom?
I can go first if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
I wanted to be an author in second grade. When they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be an author or a vet. And I still love animals and I still love writing. I am one of those people that I just always have loved the idea of storytelling, loved writing. I was editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper. I was, a stringer, whatever, before that, and had other editorial positions. I've always loved poetry as well, and have taken poetry workshops too for fun. And I think poetry can be really helpful and beneficial for any type of writing, but that's a different discussion too. And then I landed a job at a prestigious paper after college, and I was also an editor on a magazine in college. I knew before I entered into college that I wanted to major in journalism. A lot of people enter into, a Big Ten school and might not necessarily know exactly what degree they want to pursue. It's really, really common to go in as undecided or go in and then switch your major 1 or 2 times. Very, very common. But I didn't. I said, nope, I know what I'm going to do. I want to be a journalist. That's exactly what I want to do. And then when, the rise of social media and everything else occurred, journalism obviously has changed as a field, very much so over the last 15, 20 years. It's very, very different than it used to be. And so I started figuring out how writing could play a different role in my life. And that's when I entered more so into the digital marketing world. And then I was reeled back in to coaching and ghostwriting and writing for myself. And I like to say I had a spiritual awakening when my son was 8 months old. And it's a story I love telling. And I heard one of my spirit guides tell me I need to write again. And that's how I got back into the idea of writing needs to come at the forefront of my life again, because I am a writer. That is something that I've always known about myself.
I love that. I think I'm going to hold any commentary. I can't wait to hear what Julissa and Lashun have to say, because I have this funny feeling that there are some common threads here. So, Julissa or Lashun, what do you got?
That's exactly the season I'm in right now. When you said love affair, I'm treating writing like I'm casually dating her when she wants to be married to me already.
Yes! Oh my gosh, I've so felt that. Yes.
And it's like the universe is pushing me to marry writing and make it a full-time thing. And I haven't taken that leap. Fear, doubt, I'm like, okay, my financial situation, like how can all of that change? But it's just like a constant push, like do it and worry about it after. I'm like, yeah, but no, just stop casually dating. You've been dating since like 3rd grade, writing. It's time to fully commit and step into the gifts that the universe, that God gave you. No questions asked. Like stop putting a question mark where the universe is putting a period. And I'm like, but wait, no, but what about this? What about that? I have a son. I have to do this. I'm a mom. And it's like I'm literally in the season right now where that spiritual awakening we're being pushed to. And a couple of weeks ago, I was questioning, like, I just need a sign. And then I received the email, like, reminder, September 10th. I was like, all right, maybe that's not the sign. Maybe that's not the sign. And I received a bunch of other signs. So writing is ready for me to be committed to her. But I think, full transparency, I'm in a season of fear, anxiety, and what that will look like on the other side. And right now I'm learning to just dive into your passion and purpose, and everything else will fall into place, and just leaving it at that. And knowing that if I can do it, I come from a big family. How does it look to my nieces that as a woman, I'm doing that? That's power in itself right there. So I'm trying to remove the questions and just lean into it, because I get lost in writing. And the quote, you're never fully working if you're doing what you love. And right now I'm working and I'm not doing what I am passionate about. So it's like that spiritual awakening season that Danielle mentioned. I am in the midst of it, and in the midst of crossroads that I know it's going to get figured out.
Yeah.
If I can.
Beyonce said, put a ring on it.
Yes. Yes.
So it's time for you to put a ring on it. Oh my gosh, so many things to say to that, but I'm holding. Lashun, what's your girl?
I'm going to add the cherry on top and say that I married writing as well. I've said for years, like, writing is my love. And I didn't realize how serious I was about that, because I said it in high school. Because while everyone else was dating and having fun and, doing their fun teen stuff, my INFJ self was like, let me get back to my computer. I don't care about any of this. Give me a pizza party every Friday. I don't care. It was just not in me. I was so dedicated to publish my fantasy series by the time I was 18. I don't know to this day why it had to be 18, but it was. So Like I mentioned earlier, I started with fan fiction and then I wanted to write my own stuff. And it was a rocky start because my mom had this predestined life set out for me. And so I had to work through that. And she was like, well, technical writing is writing, journalism is writing, newspaper articles are writing, you can go to corporate. And I was like, I don't think we're having the same conversation. Because to me, those were different things. If I've specified that I want to be an author that writes fantasy, I don't know how we got over here, you know? So in my 20s, like what Danielle mentioned, nothing fit. I'm like, I'm 29 right now. And I had the epiphany just yesterday, speaking of like the alignment, I'm like, nothing fit. I don't care to do anything else. This is not depression. This is not anxiety. This is not sadness. I've tried everything. The hustling, the freelancing even. Like it's all been so difficult. Like I had a friend who was like, "Oh, do receptionist work. It's easy." Who said that? Why would you say that to me? Because I went in with the pre-notion of, "Oh, it's easy. Anyone can do it." And it's like that's not what I wanted to do. And somehow answering a phone was harder than going to the keyboard.
Mhm.
So what I realized was like, let me not listen, you know, outside of myself. Let me go into myself. And when Danielle mentioning about her spirit guide, my team is like, hey, get to the keyboard. And I'm like, well, I know, really, I know. But then I remember, hey, you married writing. It's at the forefront of your life. You love it. And it's so much more than just, oh my God, this is my hobby and I love it. I'm like, no, I am dedicated.
Mhm.
Like there, if my fingers fall off, I'm going to go vocal. You know, if I can't see anymore, I'm gonna have someone help me. I cannot not write a story. You know, I have to do this. You know, so not to ramble, but it's something that I need to do. And I can see myself being 60 with like hundreds of published works, rather in anthologies or my own stuff. And I'm like, yep, I did that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, now that my tongue is chewed off at the end, chomping on it through all of these fabulous stories. I mean, you all know me at this point. I've had conversations with each of you before bringing you on to Open Book Broadcast. So you all know a little bit about my story, which is captured in my first memoir, Dear Universe, I Get It Now. And I think the thing that I feel compelled to say right now, because otherwise I'll eat up the last however many moments of our conversation together, is that marriages look different. That's the advice that I'm going to offer. And I can say that as somebody who's now been married twice. Okay. Meaning, to pull it back over here, that sometimes our preconceived notions of what being a writer or what writing is going to look like in practicality seems like it should be one way. Maybe because it was a childhood dream, maybe because people around you say that it should be X, you know, whatever it is. But like anything, you find your own rhythm with your partner when your partner is the right person, right?
Mhm.
So when it comes to like writing, so Danielle's kind of figured it out, right? She's made it to the other side. So this is more for you, Julissa and Lashun. You know, you are committed and dedicated to writing. Writing is your partner. You are committed to them on some level, but you're in a certain season of the relationship with writing and you're figuring it out together.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you figure out that thing, there'll be some new milestone and you have to figure out the next one. Right. Because relationships are always going through seasons. And it's no different with writing. You know, my example would be, you know, I was once on that precipice, Julissa, where you are. You know, do I choose in and do I finally stop ignoring what the universe is telling me and I make the passion for writing my living? And finally I did. I crossed that road, right? That bridge. And I went all in and I've been in the right place, right time since then. But here's what's also been true in the last 6 years since going into business for myself, that somewhere along the way, the passion did start to feel more like work.
Mm.
So now I'm in a season of how do I recapture the passion and the creativity for myself how do I start building that back into my life for me so that I can sustain the skills that I offer my clients that they truly need, that I love doing when I'm working with them. But a lot of the day I'm exhausted because it's now become my job.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, all those things. But I think trust in yourself, but trust in your partner, and, ride the wave wherever you are, like in this season, because it will shift. Right. So right now you focus on one thing. You just focus on that one thing, figuring out what you need to do next and what makes the most sense for you and for writing.
If I may, I'd love to reiterate Julissa's point of stop putting a question mark where universe has put a period, or what she said. I love that so much.
Yeah. I love that too. Maybe, Julissa, we've given you lots of new fodder for your next newsletter.
Yes, 110%. 110%.
We are approaching the top of the hour and we didn't even get to all the questions I wanted to ask. Okay, let's do one more and then we'll let people know where to connect with you all and let you each have a chance to promote something that's coming up in your life. Let's see. What do you all want to answer? Do you want to talk about the purpose that writing serves in your world, a project you're working on right now, or how you fit writing into your life in this current season? And you can each pick a different question if you want. Well, but those are the questions that are on the table. So
I'd like to talk about how writing has changed our lives in terms of like how people show up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, go for it.
Because I mean, at least for me, one big example is my partner. When she went to get her master's, she realized her friend group, respect to her, was absolute crap, and so they showed up for her in what she views as their truest form. The same happened with me in writing, where in high school, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm publishing a book," and most of the adults would be like, "Oh, that's nice." And it's like, do you know any other teenager who's saying they're going to publish a book? It's like, can I get a pat on the back a little bit? And like throughout the course of my career, I saw, which no hate to people who see this as a hobby, but it's like there were the hobbyists and then there were like people like us who were like, no, this is my life. I need to do this. There's a certain flows of passion that I noticed where that really showed me how people show up for themselves and their professional and writing lives and stuff. And so I wanted to talk about it mainly to get other people's perspectives on it, because I saw the depths of people and I saw the depths of myself even. Sylvia Plath, I want to say, like I've read her writing. Why did I not meet her? Like she just has such gripping lines and story, and it's like I mentioned earlier, a responsibility, and it's a flow and a connection and an alignment that I realize not everyone's going to understand, and that was a very big pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's finding your people, it's finding your community.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think, and this is something Lashun, you and I talked about when we first connected, I think too, there's a difference between how people identify themselves as a writer, and then there's various shades of that, but then how people identify themselves as an author.
Yeah.
Right? I work with a lot of people who want to be an author, but they don't identify as a writer. Writing isn't necessarily the thing that lights them up. It's their message or their story that they desperately feel tapped to share. Yeah. And they want to do that in the form of a book. That's what's pushing them, propelling them forward down this path, but not necessarily like the attachment or the internal flame for the art form, or for being well read, or for publishing multiple books, So it's like everybody's coming to it, I think, from a different origin story. Mm-hmm. But I think for those of us who take this almost like a sacred oath, like this is the thing that we've been bestowed upon to do, right? Like we're looking for each other, because there are a lot of other people who are like, I don't get what you're all word nerdy about. Like this does not jive with me whatsoever. Mm-hmm. But look at us, we're communing right now. So you've got people out there. We're here. It's just, you got to like push all the bodies out away in the crowd, right? To get to the people who are dancing the same beat as you.
I can answer that question too, because that's something similar happened to me. When I started telling people I'm really going to lean into my writing, and I felt called to, and I started my newsletter, I had friends and family that either saw the results of it and loved it, or they were with me through the writing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started sharing my work, and my friends were holding me accountable of like, it's October 1st. You said October 1st you would have a newsletter. What do you need help with? And then I had friends that only saw the results and were like, oh, you actually are a writer. Like, you're actually doing something that's beautiful. And I was like, did you think this was hee hee ha? Like, did you think I'm just writing and pouring out my life into this beautiful newsletter for no reasons? And so it just showed me that like people only show up for you the way they show up for themselves. And the fact that I had friends, and I don't have to meet them where they are, because I had a circle of friends that I still do that hold me accountable and remind me when I do, even in moments where I don't want to identify as a writer, they're like, no, that's what you are. And you're going to claim it. And you can have your moment, but you're going to claim it. And they continue to push me up. And no matter how the results look, they stick with me through and through. But for the people that only wanted to see the results, that's exactly where I left them. And it did hurt because of those interpersonal relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just like, that's where they're at. And here are my results. And it went through one ear and out the other until they started reading my newsletter and praising me, versus like my friends of like, all right, what topic do you need? Like, let's have this conversation. And it got to the point with my circle of friends, this one particular friend, that when we would have conversations, similar to Allie, what you just did, yes, you're writing about that. Go. That's perfect. Put it on paper. How can I support you? So it's more so of like, I learned that people are only going to meet me where I'm at. And as I continue to change in my relationship with writing, that may change how other people support me. But I know I have that core community, and I can reach out to you all because we're building community, and that's what community is really about.
Absolutely. Sounds like you've got a pretty good core group though.
Yes.
Like that have embraced, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Danielle, do you want to answer this question, or do you want to move on to something else?
I was thinking of answering, how do you fit writing into your life? If that's
Yeah, give us something practical, something for the people to munch on, something that maybe I could munch on because I need a little bit of help myself. Says the coach.
Well, I have found, in terms of scheduling, I have had my business now for almost 6 years, and I have gone back and forth with how I schedule the day logistically. And to me, when you're running a business that has to do with writing, there's a lot of business development logistically that has to take place. There's a lot of emails back and forth. There are a lot of things that you have to do visibility wise, right? So there are all those categories, but then there's client fulfillment. And if you get a contract and you have to write a certain amount of words, you better believe that I will stay up till 3 a.m. and do that. I don't do that anymore, but I used to. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I have found is that getting help is always okay. So I have a great virtual assistant, and now I'm at the point where I am active on LinkedIn, but I also have help. And I'm very, very happy that I'm at the point where I can look at my email like I did this morning. I have 3 calls with executives in the next week. I had a great call yesterday. I've had great calls the last couple of weeks. And sometimes they go places. Sometimes they're great people to know. And that's how I always like to look at things, as this is worth my time to build my partnership networks, right? And what I like to do is I like to stack calls, and I like to stack writing time. So yesterday I was really excited because I got to dive into a memoir chapter that I'm ghostwriting for a client. and I wanted to rewrite a lot of the parts of it. And it took a long time, but I know that about myself. So that's something practical that I always impart on folks too, is depending on the genre you're writing in, might take an hour to write 4,000 words, as you said, Lashun, or it might take you an hour to write 300 words or edit 200 words. It really depends on the context of what you're writing. And I like using a timer just for me, just to see how long is it actually going to take me to write this many words in this genre? Do I really need to write, do I need to write 4,000 words this week? Okay, great. How many hours do I need to dedicate? I am not somebody who can go back and forth. And I think a lot of us are. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to focus for an hour, and then I'm going to have 2 calls, and I'm going to have lunch, and then I'm going to focus again for an hour. No, that doesn't work for me. And I don't know if that works for anybody else either. I mean, I wish it did, but I know that about myself. So what I like doing is I like having at minimum like 2 90-minute increments of time on writing days. Very, very minimum, bare minimum. I like to stack them and really be in the zone and be focused. And if you know what your flow state is with writing, that can really help you with understanding how you can fit more writing into your life at this point. And I really wish I was ottering this, because I want to write stuff about this now.
Well, Danielle, as I told them behind the studio, once you have access to this via YouTube or whatever, you can do whatever you want. So if you can find a way to download the audio and transcribe it, and create a whole blog series around getting writing back into your life, then you go for it, my friend.
Studio.
And I will be on the lookout for those exact posts.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I like what you're saying though, like recognizing how you work, recognizing what your flow state looks like. I think one of the things that always comes up with clients who are working with me is like, well, how am I supposed to do this? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, we got to talk about how you operate. They have that idea that like they have to get up at 5 a.m. and write by candlelight, like all of the greats that went before them. And I'm like, F that shit. Like that is not realistic. That is not our world today. Mm-hmm. There's too many responsibilities on people. And then when it's women, I mean, they carry a lot of weight typically. If there's older parents that they're taking care of, younger children, working full time, like whatever it is that their responsibilities and their load is, like they need their sleep. Like they're not going to be operating at 5 a.m., getting their 6,000 words for the day or whatever it is. So I think it is really important that there is no one size fits all here. It's really a matter of you knowing yourself, your schedule, your goals, what's realistic, what's doable, and then also giving yourself grace when life throws you off track and takes away the plan that you just created.
Yes.
And if I may, I want to add to that, to the question anyway. What helps with me with writing, I treat it like a date. So I'm like, okay, I do have a candle, but I'm like, well,
but for very different purposes.
For very different
electricity.
For very different purposes. I light the candle, I have my drink, and I just sit down with it, and I'm like, all right, take me,
No, saucy. Take me writing right here on the desk. I like it though.
Good. Yeah. I think it's important too to recognize that you can ebb and flow. So some weeks also you might recognize they're going to be really busy with other responsibilities, but if you have writing as a responsibility to yourself, you will figure out a way to get those words in, right? Mm-hmm. And it can mold and change and grow. It doesn't have to be static. Like I can only write at 9 a.m. on Mondays for 3 hours. Like that's not something that I want anybody to take away from what I'm saying. Like you can write at 4 a.m. if you want. You can also write at midnight. And I've had clients try both. I've said, if you don't know, try different methods and let's see what's going to work for you.
Super important. I also think it's important for people to realize that you will change, and how you write one thing will differ from how you write another. Just kind of like how pregnancy with one child is very different than pregnancy with another. The way that I wrote Dear Universe was one way based on that season of life and what I was going through. The way that I wrote my next book as a co-authorship with somebody else was totally different. So having to be open to reinventing the wheel a little bit, and giving yourself grace that like just because it worked one way before doesn't mean that it can't shift and change later on as things shift and change around you. All right, folks, it is 11:11. So we're going to wrap up here. I want to honor each and every one of you by letting people know where to connect with you, and if there's anything that you want to let people know about that you would be interested in sharing with them. So Julissa, where should people connect with you, and is there anything that you want to promote before we wrap up today?
I would say the best bet is to LinkedIn. I know that my friends watching after this, that will all change because my phone's already buzzing on what's next for me. So LinkedIn would be the best bet. And if there's anything else after that, which I have faith there will be, it'll definitely be announced on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. All right. So everybody go connect with Julissa on LinkedIn. I put that into the comments, which is funneling over to YouTube and Facebook, but I will make sure to go update LinkedIn when we wrap up. Thanks, Julissa, so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
All right, Lashun, where should people come and hang out with you?
So I have my Substack, Heart of Writing. You can connect with me there. I also have an Instagram and Threads. I also have a LinkedIn for more professional matters. So you can, of course, connect with me on there too. Yeah.
Beautiful. Anything that you want to promote? Anything that we should be keeping our eyes out for?
Please have a look at C Comedies. That is available via, I want to say, Instagram or my Threads, but I'll make sure to also announce it on LinkedIn, which I'm sure I already did. Anything that I have going on there will definitely be announced on my socials. Take a look at Element Princess. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. My future project, Starlight, no news yet. Like, we're still editing. Ooh, this girl needs some work. But yeah, that's my updated stuff so far.
Wonderful. All right. We will keep an eye out for all of those goodies. All right, Danielle, where do you want people to come and hang out and see what's going on?
It says it right here. It's perfect. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. So you can go to LinkedIn and then just search my name, Danielle-Perlin Good, Good without an E. And you can also go to my website, thesoulalignedghostwriter.com. And I also on there have links to Google Drive folder, has my media kit, ghostwriting samples, all the good stuff. That's what I send out all the time. If anybody wants to take a look and see, hey, what's this person about and how does she write, then that's a great place to find that. And I also have a Substack that is linked on my website. And my goal is to be posting bi-weekly. So my last post came out a couple weeks ago, and I am due for a post this week as well.
Awesome. All right. So all of you can go connect with each other if you haven't already. Follow along, see what each other is about. Keep each other in your community, especially when you need those words of wisdom or insight, accountability checks, or taps on the shoulder, kicks in the butt, whatever it is that you might need on a weekly basis. Thank you all for being with me this morning. It's a pleasure speaking with each and every one of you. And folks who are catching this live or as a replay, join us again next month, October 8th, where we're going to be talking about being seen and heard through the written word. So we hope to be having you tune in with us then. And until then, keep writing. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.